So all three of us manage our technology and design career community. Sanjana was very generous to invite us to this meeting to talk about LinkedIn basics. We know we have our tech fair coming up on November 11th, which is, I guess that's, what is it, 3 weeks away, something like that. So a good time to kind of get your LinkedIn page in order, get that looking professional, so that it is ready to show. So that's what we're going to be chatting about today. I'll be presenting for maybe 25 minutes, probably a little under half an hour, and the rest of the time can be devoted to any questions that everyone here might have for me or for us, based around LinkedIn or on the job fair in general. We're happy to answer any of those questions for you. So without further ado, we'll get started. So LinkedIn, networking, and how to manage your online brand. Really important. You want to, start thinking about, your LinkedIn page and really across your social media as your brand, as your professional brand of how you present yourself online. When you apply to a company is going to look at your resume first, and then if they like what they see or they see there's some potential there, the next thing they're going to do is look you up on Google, or maybe even more specifically, look you up on LinkedIn and see what's on there. So you want to make sure you're putting your best foot forward in what you put online. LinkedIn is a really great way to do that. For anybody that doesn't know what LinkedIn is, before I get to specifically LinkedIn, networking in general, it's a way to really cultivate relationships. The word networking might have positive, negative, maybe neutral connotations, depending on what context you've heard it in before. Some people think of networking and they immediately think, oh, that means I have to put a fake smile on my face and talk to other people about things I don't care about in order to get a job from them. Well, sure, I guess that's one form of networking. But I think a better way to think of it is talking to other people about shared common interests, about things that you're both passionate about, and building a relationship based off of that and growing that and seeing where that relationship goes from there. Not everybody's going to be able to get you a job or an internship, nor should they. But people might be able to provide you with all different levels of help, whether it's maybe giving you a couple of tips on maybe some electives you should be taking, to maybe conducting a mock interview with you, to, hey, my company is hiring. I know how passionate you are about information systems. I think you'd be a really great fit. Get me your resume and I'll get you in for an interview next week because I'm really good friends with the hiring manager. So networking can lead to all different types of help and all different levels of help. The wider you expand your network and the more people you get to know, the more likely that cool stuff like that can start to happen. So more specifically with LinkedIn, a really relatively easy way to network you can do through LinkedIn. As of 2017, there were about 500 million users on LinkedIn. I just actually looked at the numbers today. I think as of late last year, early this year, there are about 700 million users on there. So it's continuing to grow. I think especially during a pandemic right now, where people are really looking to up their engagement and up their networking. People that have never been on LinkedIn before are probably creating LinkedIn profiles too. So I expect that number to keep going up as new folks keep coming out of school and new professionals keep growing and developing. Then we will have more and more folks on LinkedIn. I'm definitely getting a glare. I'm going to try to close some of my blinds here. I apologize. All right, that helped a little bit. So what can you do with LinkedIn? There are a lot of things you can do with LinkedIn. And after this presentation, I'm going to go to LinkedIn and kind of show you some of these things that we're going to talk about today. You can explore different career pathways, employers, different job opportunities. LinkedIn has a very robust job board on there, which you can utilize. You can research companies that you're interested in. You can research what folks are doing with majors similar to yours, what kinds of career pathways they went down to get to the jobs that they're in today. You can use LinkedIn to start connecting with your peers, your classmates, alumni that maybe you've talked to, build a network of future employers that you might be interested in working with, and then start building your brand as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about what I mean by that. How does LinkedIn work? And I guess I'm coming at this from a perspective of maybe you have a LinkedIn profile right now, maybe you don't. Either thing is okay. But if you have not used LinkedIn before, it works on a series of 3 degrees of separation, basically. So if you are directly connected to somebody, just like with Facebook, you can be friends with people on Facebook. Think of that as like your first degree of connections, of people that you are directly connected with one-to-one. They've sent you a connection, or you've sent them a connection and you've accepted, or they've accepted. Those could be your friends, family members, previous or current managers, professors, classmates, all that stuff. Your second degree of connection is everybody that your first degree is connected to. So that could be professionals that your friends work with, family of family, you know, other professors that your professors know. It greatly expands your network there. And then LinkedIn goes out to a third degree of separation too, where it's all of your secondary connections. You can see their connections too. So you can very quickly expand the amount of people profiles you can view. That's basically how LinkedIn works, of whose profiles you can see and whose you can't. Is it goes up to 3 degrees of separation. So you'll see, like, once you start making connections with people, you can very, very quickly expand the amount of research that you can do on other folks' career pathways, what other folks do for a living, where they work, getting a better idea of what they do on a day-to-day basis too, and finding common career pathways as well. So things you want to be including in your LinkedIn profile or as part of your profile. I'll say it's relatively easy to build a LinkedIn profile if you have not done that. It's not like building a resume from scratch, where it's kind of like there are 1,000 different ways to put that together. With LinkedIn, you're slotting stuff in just like with any other social media site. It's all formatted and templated out. Photo, headline, summary. Some of these we'll be talking about in a little bit more detail. Your experience, organizations you've been involved with, education, volunteer experiences, skills and expertise, honors and awards, courses, projects, recommendations. First off, your photo. I do think it's really important to include a headshot on LinkedIn. Some folks I'll see won't have a profile picture on there. It does actually impact how people will engage with you on there. LinkedIn, like I mentioned, has a job board. You can search for jobs on LinkedIn. Conversely, recruiters or HR professionals can also search for potential candidates on LinkedIn. You could be a passive candidate if you have a really great LinkedIn profile that has a lot of the things that an employer might be looking for when they're recruiting for a business analyst, let's say, and a lot of the things in your profile match what they're looking for. You could very well get an email or a phone call or a LinkedIn message from a recruiter saying, hey, I'm looking for a business analyst for this position I'm trying to fill. Would you be interested in? Having a professional profile picture can greatly impact whether or not someone gets in touch with you. And that's based on fact, that's based off of numbers. You're much more likely to actually get an employer to reach out to you and contact you if you have a headshot on there. There are a lot of reasons for that, but just, you know, they want to basically know you are who you say you are. Sometimes if you don't have a profile picture, does that mean, is this a real profile? That's the number one concern that some folks might have. So having a professional headshot is really important. And when I say professional, I don't mean that you need to pay to get a photo done. This could still be something that you take yourself. It could be a selfie, just having a nice background, wearing, you know, semi-professional clothing, clear, clean, bright picture. That's really all you need when I say professional headshot. Like I said, doesn't need to be something you pay for, just something that you or a friend takes of you that just shows your face really clearly and centered for that headshot. Having a headline. A headline is basically what goes right below your name where it says Brad and seeking new opportunities. That's Brad's headline. Not really a great headline in my opinion. Your headline doesn't necessarily have to be your job title or the company you work at, although it very well could be. You want it to be something that kind of pops. Think of it as like, this is something I tell students all the time, especially when developing a resume, like what goes right underneath your name? What's the tagline? What would go on the movie poster of your LinkedIn profile or your resume page? It can be a really impactful phrase that gives an employer or whoever's viewing it a really good snapshot of who you are and what you're looking for. So it could be Brad, data-driven Java developer with expertise in blah, 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 or passion, or results-driven cybersecurity professional passionate about healthcare, whatever. It doesn't have to be a full sentence. It doesn't have to have a specific job title, but it gives someone a good snapshot of who you are and what you're kind of looking for, what you're interested in. So being specific is important. Speaking directly to your audience that you want to entice is really important. Like I mentioned, recruiters use LinkedIn all the time to find candidates. So they'll put in their little search parameters on LinkedIn of who they're looking for or what the search parameters are. In fact, this might be a good time to actually pull up LinkedIn. So I am going to do that. So let's say I'm a recruiter. I mentioned Java developer before. I'm going to put in Java developer. Oops. And I can search by people. So if I'm a recruiter and I'm trying to find a Java developer, all I see before clicking on someone's profile is this snapshot. I see their header image, their name, their degree of separation, and this is the little tagline that I was talking about: senior Java developer, software developer, Java developer. So this is all I see. So you want something that's going to really pop out to your targeted audience. Otherwise, they might not click on your profile to learn more. If this just said DePaul student, if I'm a recruiter, that doesn't give me much excitement. That doesn't really entice me to look at your profile or learn more about you. So you really want this to be more, how do you want to be perceived by the industry that you're trying to get into? So having something descriptive, it could be a job title, it could be something like I said before, like full stack developer specializing in Java, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This one might be a little bit long. He didn't know when to stop himself. That could be okay too. But it's figuring out what kind of messaging should you use that's going to really bring in that targeted audience. So let's go back to our presentation. So your summary is what goes below your header. When you click on someone's profile, you can have a summary underneath that. Your summary, it could be something similar to your cover letter. I would say it doesn't need to be as long as a cover letter, but it's the same kind of message you get across. If you have a generic cover letter that you use, that can kind of be what goes into your summary statement. You want to keep that summary in the first person. You want to keep it, like I said, relatively short. And I don't mean to say that you want to have a bullet point format, but you want to take out the extraneous or floral language. Just get as right to the point as possible. Like I said, it could be 2 to 3 paragraphs, but each of those paragraphs should probably be 3 sentences at most. Obviously, you want to proofread everything multiple times. You don't want, just like with a resume or cover letter, your LinkedIn page, you should not have any kind of spelling mistakes or grammatical errors whatsoever. That would be a huge red flag for an employer to see that stuff. I know sometimes you might read your documents so many times that it becomes wallpaper at a certain point, meaning you don't even really see it anymore. So it's really helpful to have somebody else look this stuff over, whether it's a career advisor like myself, a friend, a family member, teacher, whoever. Have at least one other person read all this stuff before you make it public and start showing it to people, or to start showing it to employers, I should say. Your experience is, your work experience. Obviously, your experience section doesn't need to be quite as detailed as a resume. You can use like a short paragraph form like this person does. You can talk about what you did. You can use self-reflexive pronouns on a LinkedIn page like I or me or myself. That kind of language you would not use on a resume, but you could use it on a LinkedIn page because it's not quite as formal as a resume would be. But again, you don't want to have huge, big, bulky paragraphs. Each, potential paragraph you have is maybe 2 to 3 lines or something like that to give employers a snapshot of what you've done in each of your roles. You want to try to select achievements, be as quantifiable as possible, include as many numbers or on your LinkedIn profile as possible, or as this makes sense to include. Whether that's if you worked with a certain dollar amount for a budget, if you supported a certain number of end users, if you saved your company a certain amount or percentage of time by creating a new standard operating procedure. Numbers show results. Numbers also can show the scope of your role, your responsibilities. So wherever it makes sense or sounds impressive to get numbers on the resume, you want to try to do that. And I would say too, your LinkedIn profile, just like your resume, it's fluid. You can change it, you can update it as you need to. If you're not getting the kind of response and the kind of feedback you like, you can continue to update it and refine it as well. The miscellaneous stuff, volunteer experiences, organizations you might be involved in, education should all be represented. Even volunteering, even if it's not related to what you're looking to do next, can still be important if for no other reason than it shows that you're a good person. And I know that sounds like a very obvious thing to say, but people want to work with good people that aren't going to cause problems on the team. They're going to be nice and easy to get along with. Volunteer experiences get that point across without you explicitly having to state that. So that's a really good reason. And again, obviously, if your volunteer stuff in any way relates to what you want to do, that's just going to show I have such a passion for this industry or this line of work that I do this stuff in my spare time for free. So a lot of great reasons to get volunteer experiences on there. Organizations, obviously, if you're in DISO, for example, or any other student orgs, meetup groups, user groups, professional organizations, make sure all that stuff is represented. Many student orgs and especially professional orgs have their own LinkedIn pages. So you can include the official like LinkedIn group on your LinkedIn page. I'll show you what I mean by that in a second when we go back to actually looking at LinkedIn. And then education, pretty self-explanatory. You can have people recommend you, write little blurbs about you on LinkedIn. There we go, back to full screen mode, that looks better. You can have people write recommendations about you on LinkedIn. Could be managers, could be your professors. Ideally, the closer they are to knowing what kind of work you produce, those are the kinds of folks that you want writing recommendations. So if possible, I would avoid asking family members or classmates, unless you've worked with a classmate on a project and they can speak to that directly. I would say you really want to ask recommendations from people that you've worked with in a professional setting or internships, volunteer projects. Again, those are all folks that can write recommendations for you. They'll show up as little blurbs at the bottom of your LinkedIn page. And people do take that stuff into account when looking at your page. It's all about branding and how you kind of market yourself, and recommendations just speak positively to your work ethic. It lets people know other folks have gone out of their way to vouch for this person and speak to their quality of work. There's also a section on LinkedIn for skills and expertise. You can write a skill that you have, whether it's a soft skill like project management or a hard skill like programming language or a piece of software. You can put that stuff in, and then other people can recommend you or vouch that you have or know those skills. I would say if there's a skill that you want to be listed up at the top, because they will automatically order by how many people have recommended or said that you have each of those skills. So if there's a skill, for example, like Excel, that you really feel like is going to be valued and you really feel like confident in Excel, ask your connections to vouch for that skill on your LinkedIn page. That way, the more people that vouch for it, the higher it'll appear in the order of your skills in that section. Again, I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. Honors and awards, again, pretty self-explanatory. Just like with a resume, you'd have honors and awards in a separate section as well. Here's just some examples of headers. In fact, we might just want to go over to LinkedIn to kind of look at this stuff, but these are students that have headers on LinkedIn. So research assistant at DePaul University, DePaul Department of Environmental Science. So while it does say DePaul in there, I mentioned like not saying you're a student. At least this person says a job that they have at DePaul, what department they're in. It gives them someone a good idea of what their interests are, what their area of expertise is. STARS, peer mentor at DePaul University. Again, it has an actual job rather than just saying student. My main point is try to avoid just saying student at so-and-so university. Speaking and enrollment intern at Wright Foundation, former candidate for the Cook County Board of Commissioners. Again, a really solid and relatively succinct header that gives folks a good snapshot of what Bushra is all about. So again, I'm not going to have you do this activity, but just some things to start thinking about for your own LinkedIn page. your most important accomplishments, your values and passions, your superpowers, facts, figures, and stats, and any external validation like awards you've received, accolades, testimonials, stuff like that. This is something that you might want to try out on your own. There's 6 ways to start communicating with your connections. You can share updates. There are a lot of cool ways to use LinkedIn. Sharing updates is one. Just like you can write on a Facebook wall or post a tweet, you can post updates on your LinkedIn wall. And again, LinkedIn is different from Facebook and some other more casual social media sites. This is professionally oriented. So if you wanted to share updates on a project you're learning, or a project you're working on, or a certification you're pursuing, or some research that you're doing inside or outside of school, this would be a good place to share that stuff or the new cool things that you're learning. You can write articles, whether it's writing an article directly on LinkedIn or linking to an article from your own blog or your own website. That's a great place to do it as well. You can participate in and join groups on LinkedIn. I'll show you that in a second, what I mean by that. You can send direct messages to your connections, endorse other connections for your skills, like I was talking about earlier, and use the jobs feature. I am going to bounce back to LinkedIn here and show you what I mean by some of these things. So we're back on LinkedIn. So as you can see, this is Karan Kumar, and he's a senior Java developer out of Naperville. This is his about or his summary. I know LinkedIn very often updates how how the website appears, and they've changed some of the titles. So this used to be a summary, and now it's called about section. Same thing. Kind of again, short paragraphs, getting right to the point. What you can do, so skills and endorsements. So he has 4 people have endorsed his experience with Java. 3 people have endorsed his experience with Oracle. So it automatically kind of orders itself based around how many people have endorsed you for a particular skill. What you can also do, I mentioned groups. So again, I'll look by Java. I'm just gonna, press Java here. And up top, you see it says people, jobs, content, and more. If you click more, you can search by groups. There are over 5,000 groups with Java somewhere in the title. There's a Java developers group that has over 400,000 members. Something that you might want to join if you are interested in or like working with Java, you can request to join. What I'd say is before joining any group, make sure that you've updated your LinkedIn profile to reflect an interest in or a knowledge in that particular skill, because whoever owns these groups, they do vet. They could decide to let you in or decide to not let you in based around, does this person have an actual interest in Java, or is this a recruiter that's just maybe fishing for candidates? You just want to make sure that whatever group you decide to join is a group that you have some kind of interested in, and that is reflected on your LinkedIn page. But once you're in these groups, you have access to their boards, their wall basically. It's a really great and relatively easy way to maybe start making some connections with people. You can post on these walls if you have a specific question or maybe a technical question. You can ask a question on Java. If somebody else asks a question, you can answer it. Like I said, it's a relatively easy way to start forging connections with people based around some of these common interests. As a bonus, when you join a group, this group will show up on your LinkedIn page at the bottom under groups and activities section. So employers, again, look at that. They look and see what groups is this person in or what are they involved in. So the more relevant groups that you have or have joined on your LinkedIn page, again, speaks to your work ethic and what you're passionate about and what you're looking to do. I didn't really dive too much into the networking component because that's really a whole separate conversation in and of itself. I'll say you can use LinkedIn to conduct informational interviews or again, find people that are maybe doing some of the things you want to be doing. So again, I'll just look up business analyst and I can search by people. I have in my network over 10 million people that have business analysts somewhere in their profile. That is a lot. I'm not going to go through all those. That would be insane. But I could maybe just start doing some research on folks' career paths, where they went to school, what their degree was in, what they studied, what kind of roles they had, how they got to where they currently are. So it's a good way to start doing research, like I said, on career paths. If it's someone that maybe you want to ask some questions of, you can do connect. Whoops, hold on one second. You do connect, and then you do add a note. So if you didn't do add a note, it would just send a generic message to Derek. I would say if it's someone you don't know, always add a note, because then you can type a 300-character message saying why you're reaching out to Derek. Hey, Derek, I'm Lauren. I am pursuing my bachelor's degree in information systems from DePaul in Chicago. I came across your profile on LinkedIn. It sounds like you're doing some really cool work that's similar to what I think I want to do. I was hoping I could maybe ask you a couple of questions about your career path. You want to keep that message relatively short and succinct, but also specific to them. You want to make sure that you're writing some kind of specific message to whoever you're reaching out to. If you just copying and pasting the same message over and over again to every person, they're going to sense that. They're going to know that you're just sending a generic message, and you're going to get a far lower response rate as opposed to if you're writing something unique for each individual person. So again, you're not using this to ask, hey, Derek, are you hiring? Because it's very unlikely Derek will respond to something like that. But if you appeal to, hey, I'm just trying to make myself a more informed candidate or a more informed business analyst or information systems professional, there's a higher likelihood that he might help, because you're engendering in him the feeling of being a mentor. And most folks, they want to be a mentor and they want to help other people if they can. You want to make him think, oh, wow, this person's reaching out to me just like I reached out to some folks when I was in college. I would love to be the other person on the end of that line. I would love to be that mentor that I had when I was in school. Or conversely, I never had a mentor in college, and I would love to be a mentor for someone else. So if you can create that feeling in that message when you reach out to somebody, the higher the likelihood that somebody will actually reply to you and maybe want to help you out if they can. So LinkedIn is a really great way for just kind of organically, low stakes, starting to build your network and getting to know people. I'll also kind of lastly here, because I do want to leave some time for any questions that you folks might have, but you might even get a better response rate from looking at DePaul alumni. So you can actually go to DePaul's LinkedIn page. Every school has one, and search by alumni. And at some point in the future, this will load. Here we go. So I'm on DePaul's page, and you can search alumni. And there's a lot of different parameters you can put. You can say, I want to search by folks that have graduated between this and this years. You can do any kind of keyword search. You can do where they live, where they work. There are a few other search parameters too. But let's just keep it simple and say, again, business analyst, since I'm talking to DISO group, figure that would be relevant to most of you. So in my network, I have over 19,000 alumni from DePaul that have business analyst somewhere in their profile. And again, if I wanted to get more specific, I can search by where they live, where they work. I can add a specific company name in here, other search parameters that pop up too. But just to scroll down, again, you can reach out to, if you wanted to just keep it to DePaul alumni. I recommend casting your net as wide as possible, whether they went to school at DePaul or not, but I think you will get a little bit of a better response rate from DePaul alumni just because you at least have that common connection. So I'd recommend maybe starting with DePaul alumni and then expanding that search to other folks that, you know, went to any old school, because why not? There's no reason not to. But that's how you'd search specifically for DePaul alumni on LinkedIn. I am going to stop there. I do want to share actually our LinkedIn page for our tech and design group, excuse me. And I'm going to put this in the chat. And if any of you would like to join, please do so. We post things in there all the time on job and internship postings, events, upcoming events that either we are hosting or even stuff externally from DePaul. In fact, today we just posted DICE is hosting a virtual career fair next week, specifically geared towards entry-level tech job seekers. And we post other interesting articles or news items that we hope you might find useful or helpful. So I do recommend joining that if you are interested. We also have our tech fair coming up next on November 2nd. You can register for that in Handshake as well. Saying, do you have that link handy? If you can put that in there. I'm going to open this up to any questions that anybody might have. If you want to just ask, or if you feel more comfortable typing in the chat, either one is fine with me. And thank you, Saying just included a link to our tech fair. So make sure that if you are a job seeker, or if you think you might be looking for a job, a lot of the employers that are going to be there are going to be looking for folks to be starting the following summer. So even if you aren't looking to start something right now, a lot of these employers are projecting pretty far out in advance. So not a bad idea to go. Questions, anyone?
I have one question, like if I'm having one volunteer experience which is more aligned with my career goal, like if I'm more into data analytics side, then can I add that volunteer experience in my work experience?
Can you add work experience? Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. So if I'm having a volunteer experience which is more into data analytics, and this is what I'm pursuing, so can I showcase that experience in my work experience?
So the question is, can you showcase data analytics experience? Like do you mean like a specific project that you worked on?
Yes, so I volunteered for that project.
Well, you volunteered. Yeah, any volunteer work, yes, you can definitely still include on, I was going to say Handshake, I'm sorry, on LinkedIn. If it was I know there's I think a section for volunteering. There's also a section for projects. So there is a little bit of leeway in how you decide to categorize something.
Okay.
So I'd say something like that. If it was, you might want to put it in the project section. LinkedIn also allows you to link to projects and include some images on your profile too, which we didn't really get into. But if you have like coding projects or anything like that, you can also include them on your LinkedIn page too.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So I was kind of curious, if you are interested in relocating for work or moving to a different city than you're currently living in, is there any effective way to kind of communicate that without appearing strange or overly desperate on LinkedIn, or is that just kind of something you only deal with when talking one-on-one with the employer?
So are you saying kind of building a network in a new city? Or
yeah, kind of. I guess for my particular situation, I'm interested in moving from the city I am currently living in, and so trying to make it clear that whilst LinkedIn, the location is here, that is only temporary. That is to just kind of make yourself more available for the network of the city you're moving to.
I would say, I mean, if you're talking purely from a networking perspective, I would say, in addition to LinkedIn, look at what local meetup groups are in that new location that you're looking to move to. You might want to start there by maybe just joining some of those local meetups, especially right now during this time of COVID and where everything is remote. You're far less bound by geography, not only in terms of your job search, because everything is remote right now, but also in terms of events you can attend. Everything is a webinar right now. Everything that was a face-to-face, panel discussions or going to listen to a speaker or hackathons, everything is virtual right now. So you can attend meetups hosted by like the Seattle Hackathon group or whatever. There's no limit to where you can attend. So that might be a good place to start, is starting to attend some of those local city meetups to start kind of maybe building a network or starting to talk to some of those people there. Maybe letting them know, hey, I'm planning to move here and in this time. So I thought it would be a good time to just start to get to know some of the tech groups and the tech professionals in this area. As far as LinkedIn goes, I guess, I mean, if you're looking, do you mean trying to, up when you apply to jobs through LinkedIn? Is that what you're talking about? Or when you're talking about building a network through LinkedIn?
It was kind of both. So I guess on the other front, for applying to jobs, because I've always been paranoid that even if it says you're willing to relocate, that immediately disqualifies you from some positions because they aren't interested in dealing with somebody who has to relocate.
I would definitely say when applying, I know this is a little off topic, but if applying to a job that's not in the current city you're in, I would say take that city off of your resume. You want the resume to put your best foot forward and put you in the best possible position to just get that interview. And then once you're in the interview, you can explain more contextually, here's my situation. Yes, I'm this determined to move. I will be moving. That is happening. You don't have to worry about the relocation stuff. I'm not going to back out. I am definitely moving. But I think if they're just seeing willing to relocate, or they're seeing you live in this city, but you're applying to something here, we don't want to deal with relocation. So I would say one relatively easy way to get around some of that is just removing the city from your resume that you're using to apply to those out-of-state positions. But I think half the battle is really just getting in the door so you can actually talk to somebody. So I think it is good to maybe start doing informational interviews with people on LinkedIn to kind of open up that line of communication of, not necessarily leading with, hey, I'm looking to find a job at your company, but again, I'm looking to move into this particular industry. And then if you can actually get a few email exchanges or even get someone on the phone, you can talk to them about how determined you are to actually move as well, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Other questions? I'm also going to put a link into here into how to make an appointment with a career advisor on Handshake. If some of you may have met with myself or another advisor before, some of you may have not. We are still, even while virtual, meeting with students for one-on-one advising appointments, either through Zoom or phone, whichever you prefer. And that will definitely be continuing for a while. But we are still here to help, here to assist. I know leading up to the career fair, you may have some additional questions or concerns, which we are happy to help you with. If you wanted to practice your elevator pitch, go over your resume, talk about how to prepare for a fair, we can talk about that in those one-on-one meetings as well. Any other questions I can answer for anybody now? Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Sanjana and the DISO group for allowing us to invade your meeting and present and talk to you guys for a little bit. If you have any questions, if you didn't, for whatever reason, feel comfortable asking something in here, like I said, we are still doing one-on-one advising appointments, so feel free to set up a meeting with myself or any other advisor to talk about any questions that you have that might not have been covered here. And again, thank you so much. Everybody have a great evening. Stay safe. Sanjana, I don't know if you wanted to say anything to close things out.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for joining, and special thank you to Lauren. Like, it was actually such a valuable session we had, and also thank like highly, like, you guys like taking time out and helping us students, making us more career ready for like upcoming career fairs. So yeah, there are definitely so many takeaways we have learned from this session. So I highly appreciate your time, and also to other career community like Jameson and Silan. So thanks so much for that.
Thank you. It was our pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.